This show is brought to you by Sparkade, our ADHD game-based learning platform that helps kids transform challenges into opportunities. Parents and educators, join the waitlist at play.sparkade.app/waitlist and be among the first to experience Sparkade when we launch. That is play.sparkade.app. You've landed at Spark Launch, the guide star for embracing what it means to be neurodiverse. Here, we navigate mental health triumphs and tribulations from all across the spectrum, charting a course to the shared experiences that unite us, and discovering how to embody the unique strengths within neurodivergent and neurotypical alike, igniting your spark and launching it into a better tomorrow. Our guest today is Stéphane Mousseau, learning strategist and founder of LIX Learning, a framework for making learning clear, more trustworthy, and genuinely neuro-inclusive. He's here to talk about clarity, ADHD, and why our systems need standards if we actually care about people. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks for the nice introduction here.
Thank you, Stéphane. I remember we were just talking about this before the show. We met a year ago, and I remember our conversation and the enthusiasm and the optimism. So I am so happy you're here officially on the podcast. I am so curious, what have you been up to since our last casual conversation over a year ago?
Wow, thanks, Chaya. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me today. It's a pleasure to be chatting with you and Mike. How to summarize the last year? It's a lot of things have happened, but I still remember the chat that we had together, just casual conversation, like a meet and greet that we just did together because we saw some alignments and we just kind of met on LinkedIn and started to chat. In the last year, where to start? First of all, I work in learning and development. I've been doing that for the last 20 years. And it's all about, the passion of helping others to elevate, to have what they need, to be successful in their role. And I've done that throughout different businesses, through different places. I'm initially from Montreal, so I've done a lot of that in Quebec. And then I moved to Vancouver, BC about 10 years ago. And I've done learning and development roles for big businesses, mostly in Vancouver, in the outdoor and retail industry, mostly. And I've done different roles in learning and development, so like, retail trainer, learning designer, all those different things to adjust to the industry and be agile and come up with like really creative solutions. And yeah, I have ADHD, and it's something that a few years ago I was really shy about. I didn't want to talk about. I'm like, it needs to be fixed, and I can't really bring it up. It's gonna get me in trouble. It's gonna create barriers for me, And at one point, about maybe a year or 2 years ago, I'm like, nope, this is who I am. I knew that I had ADHD as a kid, and as an adult, it was really different. And I just decided to embrace it and say, no, I'm gonna talk about it publicly, and I'm gonna try to advocate for myself, try to get what I need to be successful, and make sure that people know that there's not only one way to think about things and one way to look at things. And when I started to be a bit more forward about it, that's when we connected, right? That's when the doors were opening. Oh, I connect with other people. They also talk about it. They also are public about the fact that they have ADHD. And that's what I've been doing last year, pretty much, like opening up about it, trying to find solutions for me, trying to find places that I work that are more adapted to it, trying to connect with people that are also champion of it. Recently, I've launched some projects that were based on things that were pain points for me to come up with my own solutions, solution-driven as we are. And it ended up being solutions that were helping other people as well. So it's, sometimes we see patterns that are helping us, and they come up to be something that is helpful for more than just us. So yeah, in a really long story short, the two things that I've started to do in the last few months, first of all, neuro-inclusive leadership workshops. So I'm helping leaders to better support talent that are neurodivergent, mostly ADHD. Often there's small things that they can do that will make a big, big difference, not just for neurodivergent talent, but it turns out for everyone, right? It's like a practical workshop where there's some tips and tricks, things that you can actually do day to day with the neurodivergent talent. And that's been really fun, really positive feedback on that. I'm really enjoying doing this. And it's based on my experience. It's based on what I've seen. I think that clarity helps all minds. So whatever they do for neurodivergent is just bringing more clarity into the workplace. and it's beneficial for everyone, just with some small tweaks here and there in their approach, being more adaptive in their leadership. And the other one is a project called LIX Learning. So with my 20 years of experience in learning development, combined with learning science, so all the things that I know that work, right, for learning, with my education, with all the different experience I have, combined with AI for some pattern recognition, I built a system that helps to bring clarity to the review and building process of digital courses. Because often, at least for me, I was building a course, right, to deliver something to a client, to a business. And I'm like, okay, now I have to review my own work. How do you do that? How do you change your own perspective on things that you've built yourself? It's so hard to review your own work. So I'm like, there's got to be a way to have a structured second set of eyes on it, right? So that's what I decided to do, to review my own courses, to say, okay, am I okay here? Am I on track? Am I, like doing something that makes sense in terms of cognitive load, structure, flow, all those different things? And then what I built, I started to share that with some other people. And they're like, oh my God, this is great. Like, I create content. I don't have a second set of eyes. I would like to use that too. And also people that are creating content that don't necessarily have instructional knowledge. So think like a content creator, right? On a platform like School or any other platform. They know their content really well, but they don't necessarily know how to structure it. So it makes sense for the learner. What I built is actually also really, really helpful for them. It gives them an opportunity to review the course when they're building it, see, okay, yeah, the structure makes sense, and then review it before publishing it to make sure that it's optimal and really build that trust with the learner. Because if the course is clear, it has more odds of landing well for all minds and people coming back to it and asking for more. So that's, trying to summarize all the things that, but these have been my two biggest projects, that and also having a family. So, it's like, I'm pretty busy.
That's good. That fits the ADHD mind, doing multiple things, multiple projects. Now I have like multiple social medias. I recently started writing on Substack, and I love it because we are more than one thing. But when you go into a corporate world, you're given a title and you think that's it. That's our one role, but you have multiple roles. And I've always been a rebel to any system. And anyone who's tried to put me into a box, I've tried to get out and honor myself. And a lot of it, I realized, is because I did that. I didn't have the trauma of fitting in. But my childhood is different because I didn't have the power. When you're a child, the parents and the teachers, the elders, they have the power. So you have to listen. And back then, I just had to learn to fit into the box, but internally I was doing my own thing. So I think, and I've always questioned, who is the judge? Is it the universe? Is it God? Is it like a person? So if we are doing a good thing, so this is my conclusion, is if we in our hearts feel we are making an impact in a positive way, that's all matters. And so back to the point, we should honor the facets of our life, because each one of that is still us. And I wish organizations would let us do that.
Yeah, and I agree with you 100%. And it's hard because, you get to a point of, okay, you're an adult, you realize you have ADHD, maybe you have a diagnostic, maybe it's official, like, regardless of how you're getting to this conclusion. But then you're like, what do I do now? Do I talk about it? Do I hide it? Do I put this crazy mask and try to function, right, to a cost of being overwhelmed and drained and all those things? It takes so much energy to conform, to get into that box, as you said. You say, oh, this is what is expected of me. No one is telling me, right? It's like unwritten rule, gotta fit in. And then what do? You hide it and you struggle, or you bring it forward and you hope that there's going to be some support, right? And some encouragement and say, no problem, we can do this and this to help you out and try to bring more clarity into the workplace. It's hard because you always have to carry that weight, right? When you bring it forward to say, maybe it's the first time they hear about it. Maybe they don't know what to do. Maybe they're going to reject me. Maybe they're going to, decide that it's not going to work. And that happened to me. Like, some places were not open at all. And I was like, oh, whoa, okay. Like, but, it's not on me to change the whole system, obviously, but I can at least champion that and voice it for myself. And I've experienced so many struggles in a workplace, to be honest, like things that you already mentioned here, like conforming to something that is rigid, right? You join a team, there's 20 members, and they say, you do one piece of it. Don't give any opinion on what's going on the right, on the left. Just stay in your lane, do that. And you're like, but I have opinions and ideas for all of it. No, we don't want to hear about it. And then that drains you down. You're disengaged from work, right? And the best work that I've done, honestly, Chaya, like the best places that I've worked at were places where things were not existent. Like say, okay, Stéphane, just get us started. Spearhead this for us. Do whatever it needs to be done. Awesome. Great. Like I'll do this and that, and I'll put this hat on and do this role and do this, and a mix of it. And then suddenly everything is brought to life. And they're like, how did that happen? This is one person. I'm like, yep. And we go into like this hyper-focus mode. We make it happen regardless of titles or roles. And that's what I like, because it's not rigid, right? It's fluid.
There's freedom. That's what we are asking for, is freedom to be ourselves. We are good people. We're not broken, and we have so much more to offer. And so don't put us into a box, into a single role. I was told by somebody at my previous organization that perception matters. And I feel this is what people are performing to, perception. But I didn't listen. I still did what I wanted to do. I would come home during lunch to paint, and I left at 3:30 to pick up my son. And now he's in college. I'm not going to get those years back. So I'm glad I did. But I always did my work, and it was so much more. But people still saw that visual, right? Are you sitting at your desk 9 to 5? It's not about what are you producing. And until pandemic happened, and then people were like, oh, we are flexible. Why do you need such a huge event? Right? Yeah. Can we just have an open mind and look at what we are producing versus all that facade?
Yeah, and it's so interesting you say that, because you also talked about system thinking previously, and I relate to that exactly, because I see things as a system, right? And like, I'll give you an example. As you said, sometimes organizations will be, were you at your desk from 9 to 5 and only took half an hour break? Like this like perception of, oh, were you there? For me, in some places I have worked in the past, and I had to come up with like, let's say, a learning strategy. Okay, so they'll say, okay, perfect, we're building a course, and then we need a strategy for this course. How are we going to approach it to make sure people will retain information? And then the great leaders that I had sometime that would allow that flexibility, I would tell them, hey, you know what, like, I'll go for a run, okay? I'll go for a run for, 20 minutes, whatever, and I'll come back and I'll have clarity and I'll have a learning strategy, not just for one course in my mind, but for the whole learning journey. And then if they would say, yes, I'll go for the run, I come back and it's like, okay, I got it. And they're like, whoa, it would have taken like multiple people for multiple days to find strategies for each course, and it wouldn't necessarily be cohesive anyway, right? So it's like, if you leave that flexibility, you'll have output from someone who's neurodivergent that you've never seen before in such a small amount of time, just because you let them went for a run or for whatever energizes them and brings blood to their brain. And you know what I mean? And for me, that was like, wow, that works, right? Like if I work from home and I do something and my schedule might be a bit less, let's say, rigid or kind of like rational compared to a workplace, traditionally speaking, I have amazing ideas. And it's like, oh, that's how my brain works, right? It's not sitting on a desk. I'll be sitting on a Zoom call, and after 20 minutes, I'll be drained. And I'm like, oh, here goes my day. Like, it's killing me. And also, like, there's so many things in the workplaces that we don't talk about that actually has a negative impact, at least for me, from my experience, for someone who's neurodivergent, like the social integration as an example. If the onboarding, when you start that job, doesn't take in consideration that integration, right, in the team, in the community, and then you're like, oh, do they like me? Am I part of the team? What's that belonging feeling? And if it's not something that is done in the onboarding or in the first few weeks or months, you'll be like, no, this is kind of hard for me. It's kind of hard for me to give it my everything because I don't feel integrated, right? And that's often something that businesses don't do well, that social integration of an individual. And I think it's really impactful and has negative impact, especially for neurodivergent talent, and the psychological safety as well, right? Like if I'm struggling in the beginning because I don't know everything, because I'm new, who do I talk to? Am I able to be transparent about it? Can I be vulnerable? Can I have a conversation with someone and just say, hey, can you help me here? Because I forgot the link that you sent me, or I forgot where to find this new information, right? Create that safety, create that net, create that like, hey, don't worry. You can ask questions. It's fine, right? Like you don't need to know everything right away, or like, I told you once, you should know now, right? Or giving written instructions to say, don't worry. I know it's a lot. It's new onboarding. We'll send that to you by email so you can look at it at your own pace if you have any questions or whatever. Those are all a few things that I've noticed that really made a difference for me. When they integrate you socially speaking, they give you like written documents, they have clear expectations, you're integrated socially speaking because there's like maybe a team building or some sort of, a lunch with the team or something like that. And then you're like, wow, I like to be here. And then in return, they receive much more from you.
Yeah. Oh,
right?
Totally. That's the thing that they don't get it, is that there's so much they give back because we are passionate people. And that's all we want to be. We want to feel that we belong there, right? And that I love that word integration, because that is so critical. If we have to integrate with the organization, we should feel belonged. And since we can also tell what is real and what is fake, that's one of our neurodivergent strengths. It has to be done in a genuine fashion, and we'll give our hearts to it.
Yeah. And you know what? One thing I've came to realize is when I look for a job and I say yes to a job, right? I say yes to more than just a paycheck. Like for me, a job is so much more. It's the culture, it's the team, it's the vision, it's the mission of the company. And I've worked for, different style of company, like startup, right? Big corporation or co-op, like different style in the past. And it's like, okay, perfect. I can see myself aligned with the vision of that company. Right. By the end of the summer, I barely had money in my bank account from working the full 3 months in the summer camp. Right. But I would go again, back and again. And because I liked it so much, the vision, the mission of a summer camp, getting people out, getting people to try new experiences, getting people to go on trips. I was like, this is awesome. And I was so passionate that I didn't care about the money. Right. And at one point, my parents were like, okay, now you have to find a real job because, like you have to bring money into your bank account. I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. I'll try to conform and go into a regular job. Like you find a job because of the mission and because of the people and because of what it brings you. And when you find that, so many great things will come out of it. And right now I'm in a process where it's often hard to find a corporation or find a role or find a business that gives you all that stuff. And you're like, how long is it going to last? Are they going to change their mind? Are they going to see me for who I am? So I'm more in a process now in a chapter where like, I want to try things with my own vision, right? Try to do something that I believe in, and I'll put all that energy because it's my vision. It's me. It's not trying to conform to someone else's. And that's really what brought me to offer those workshops and create this framework, LIX Learning. And it's like, I don't like when things are a moving target, like when I create training and I'm like, okay, perfect. I think it's great, right? Maybe I don't see it anymore because it's mine. And I'll share it and something. And they're like, oh no, I think there's like something that needs to be changed here. Or like, oh, I don't like this. So maybe you can change that. Okay, what do you mean? What do you mean beyond the subjective feedback, right? And I'm like, it's a moving target because you send it to one person, or maybe Chaya will say, hey, this is not good for this reason. And then maybe Mike will say, this is not good for this other reason. Can we agree on something? Because like, I don't want to do rework based on a target that is continually moving. And for me, that drives me nuts so hard. So that's why I try to create more structure and clarity into my own work, because it drains me a lot when people are just putting it back and saying, nope. But what do you mean? Like, so it's I think it's really hard to see workplaces or project or, things that you're working on that are not always adapted to how our mind works, because we are the one that needs to connect the dots.
My first thought when you told me that story is that charge them for those extra edits. Then you won't be frustrated.
Some places are doing it well. So like, it depends really on the context, but yeah, you're right.
I want to go back a tiny bit because there's a lot of things that kind of come to mind what you've said. I love your perspective, and me, that shows the highlight of why neurodivergent individuals are so adept at creating on their own and building structures on their own, far more than others, and far more than we get credit for. And before we talk a lot about, in the ADHD community, motivation. Like, that's such a number one topic, like, across the board. Everyone struggles either with motivation or how people feel about their motivation, which is often two different experiences. Before you really realize that there are these broken systems in place that were not serving you and your neurotype, or really anyone's neurotype, honestly, how did you internalize that sense of motivation and feeling like your motivation is actually what's the problem instead of the system is what's the problem?
It's interesting trying to think back about all these years. Honestly, one thing that comes in mind is that motivation, it's almost like a feeling of a mirror, right? So like, okay, let's say I'm motivated about a task, right? Okay, cool. I think that this is the right angle, or this is the thing that we should work on, right? And I do it. And then I bring it to life. And so let's say a training, maybe it's like an in-person training. And then I see the result of it, right? I get it back to me. I see the reflection of it, of the participants saying, this was so cool. I learned so much, or this was amazing. Oh my God, I'm so proud of being here. I'm so proud of like working for this company now. That for me was the bottle. That this was the magic motivation. This, I want to do more, right? But if I would do something that, let's say, an admin task or whatever else that I wasn't necessarily motivated about, and I didn't get anything back from it, right? Or I didn't see the impact that it would drive, that would drive me down, drain me down. It's like, oh my God, why am I doing this? What's the purpose of it? And yeah, maybe it's a dopamine fix, most likely, right? Like you're doing something, you're seeing the impact right away. People are smiling and they're engaged and they're like happy to be here. Okay, let's keep going, right? But doing an expense report and you're like, oh my God, why does it have to be so complicated? And the crazy thing is, in some cases, let's say you have to do your expense report because obviously, you travel for work and you have to report that in some ways. If it was a clunky system, I had to do like, multiple submit or fill in a really long form for each of the expenses. I'm not going to do it. I don't want to do it. I'm going to forget. It's going to be complicated. Right? Really low motivation. And I would maybe miss some deadlines and I would maybe like, get in trouble for it. But if it was simple, just like take a picture with your phone and click submit on the app for whatever expense report, it's done. Awesome. Then I was motivated to do it because I knew that the system was great. Right? I knew that I wouldn't have to fight multiple steps that didn't make sense. And I was like almost like critical about the system itself and say, oh, that doesn't make sense. I don't want to get into it. I don't want to do it. So I don't know if it answers your questions, but it's like, I guess it's like what you're getting out of it, the way that people are reacting to it. And if what you're doing actually drives something, and if it makes sense and you kind of see the system being, oh yeah, that's efficient. I'm not wasting my time here.
I think this goes into an interesting question. I'm curious to hear your perspective on this. What does it mean for things to, make sense for an ADHD brain versus, an holistic brain who kind of just goes with very clunky mechanisms that don't really make a lot of sense?
I think what makes sense is something that it makes you feel good or makes people feel good. I'll give you like one thing that comes in mind is like social integration. Why does it make sense? In my opinion, it makes sense. Like it's like a given. Right? And maybe a business would say, oh, that doesn't make sense, or like, we don't need to invest in that. For me, why it makes sense or why it's critical is because it's how people are feeling about it, right? It's like, oh, I'm feeling seen, I'm feeling supported, I'm feeling welcomed here, I'm feeling safe, I'm feeling all those things, then that makes sense to do it. Because that emotional safety, that feeling that people have, for me, it's everything. And that's why I work in learning and development. Obviously, it's like, it's all about human-centered experience. And that's what makes sense. It's the human-centered experience. If a system is clunky, it's because when the humans are going through it, they're like, oh my God, this is not done in a way that my brain works, right? It's just meant in a developer way, whatever it is, but it's all about the human experience for something to make sense. It's like, that was thought through because they actually did some tests and, people went through it and did it and whatever, like they've experienced it, right? It's all about the experience, how people are coming out of that experience, in my opinion.
I love that we're looking for that something in return for the dopamine's fix. And I agree. It has to be interesting and engaging. And that's why they called it the interest-based nervous system. And I think that motivation, if it's not hitting that spot of interest and engagement and us getting something in return, we're not going to be motivated. And even today, I have boring tasks. Like when you talk about spreadsheet and filling up stuff, I absolutely hate it. And I will even actually just scheduling a Zoom call is very boring for me. So I will procrastinate. I will mark messages unread. I'll do everything. But then I know I have to get it done. So I'll pick a time that works for me and then add music. I think sound, vibrations, all of that really matter. So we can fake our brains to actually make it joyful, but it's not majority of my job, right? I think 95% of my job, I love it. And then there's that 5%. But I think like a good 80% is joy, something that you actually like doing. And then 20% you can kind of, fake your brain to do it. I think motivation really is internal.
Yeah. And as you said, I think it's do more of what you like and try to do less. And I think there's, in some capacity, some ways around, right? Like, okay, perfect. You know what, Chaya, if you don't like to manage your email and maybe you forget an email, maybe like things slip down or like, oh my God, I forgot to answer this person, whatever. I think that, we can get to a point. It's like, okay, you know what? Like, let's talk about it. Let's see how we can make it work. If it's a team, for example, and see, maybe it's someone else. Maybe it's someone else that takes that away from you, that does it. So we minimize the mistakes or missing the deadline, whatever. And it's done by someone who's like, okay, perfect. By self-awareness, if Chaya says, I'm not good at it, but someone says, I like it because I'm a different type. Awesome. Let's just collaborate and all pitch in where we feel that our strengths are being used to their best. So I think that's one aspect if you work in a collective, in a team. And the other thing is, one thing I came to realize, I think that AI is actually more helpful than we can think of. Right. So like you say, oh, I forget to send an email to this person as a reminder for my podcast or something like that. But maybe there's some sort of agent or some AI layer that you can add to it that automatically sends out, right, that reminder email to your guest. And I'll tell you an example. It's not even AI, but for me, it's like similar. Like think about your bank account. OK, when I was younger, I was really, really bad at saving money. OK, but now I'm better at it, not because I actually changed. I didn't change. I just automated the process. Right? I just set my account, say every 2 weeks, whatever amount goes from here to there. Forget about it. That's it. Right? And then I look back 6 months, 1 year after, I'm like, oh my God, look at that. My saving account. This is great. So automating processes of things that we don't like to do and we forget to do, I think that's the best thing we can do. Right? It just happens in the background through whatever automation, AI, whatever it is in that case. And we don't feel drained or like, because maybe you think about your email at night and say, oh, I forgot to send this email to this person. Oh my God, I got to do it first thing tomorrow morning. It occupies your brain. It brings some stress, right? So if you had a system in place that's either someone else or fully automated, then your brain can focus on things that you actually like to do. That's my opinion on it.
Okay. Technology has always helped us.
Yeah. We need it. Yeah.
Some way or the other.
Yeah.
The flip side of that are all the red flags people actually seem to be wanting to use AI for, which is so frustrating because, as you said, these are the practical places it fits in. This is actually where it's there to aid in our ability to design, to create it, but it's there to remove noise. It's there to maybe help connect dots occasionally. Instead, there's a push mostly from the AI makers who want to use marketing and stuff to push these things of utilizing it for things that take away human beings instead. Don't get me wrong. Do I occasionally use AI for writing emails? Yeah, I do, because it helps with some demand avoidance problems I have. And I do use tools to cut down some of that noise so I can actually get to the things that I want to get at, structural things, organizational things. And then I see people who utilize it, for creating artwork or writing books. And it bums me out because it's like it's something that utilizes precious resources, and it in and of itself is a resource. And human beings have a way of taking really beautiful, transgressive things that we create and kind of dumb it down into more basic places. And that's why I love seeing, the spaces you create where you're utilizing it in such a beautiful, brilliant way to help people thrive, to help humans thrive, not just, those with ADHD or neurodivergence, like just anybody, because that's what the tools are for. It's no different than, a hammer at the end of the day. And you can use a hammer to hammer a screw, but that's not really going to work. So use it for what it's for. And it is kind of a miracle creation that can really change how we build systems and the spaces we create. And speaking of spaces, a lot of what you're talking about is, I think, also goes back to a very important foundation for anybody, which is trust. And for, those with ADHD, those on the spectrum, we are very heightened individuals. We're uppity, more or less. So trust is something that's very important to us, but is also very hard for us to come by. How do neuro-inclusive spaces build a better sense of trust?
Trust is important so much that, my opinion, and that's how my system, like LIX framework, was built. It's learning is all about trust, right? In my world, at least, like I work in learning and development, as I said, but trust, and there's so many angles to it. There's a trust from the professional building the learning experience. So trust to the learner, but there's also trust to the partners, right? Like, okay, we're working together. Can I trust you? Like, do you trust me? Like all those things, right? Like, there's so many angles of trust, but how that trust is built to, for lack of a better word, mitigate that sensitivity that we might have, right? Spiking here and there, like crazy emotional reactions. That is psychological safety in the workplace. And it's not something that we often talk about. It's not often, something that is brought up in a workplace, but the psychological safety is accepting that someone might fail, accepting that there might be some mistakes happening here and there, and seeing that, like, okay, perfect. This is how we're going to, learn from it. Not it's like, oh, you're out, right? Like, so I think there's like a resilience or the flexibility in the system to say, okay, perfect. It's okay not to be perfect, right? So there's that part, the flexibility. I think that when you're showing to your team members or to your talent that there is flexibility into the system, it creates trust, creates safety, right? You don't have to say, are you working from home? I got to see every minute of you sitting on your computer or every minute of you putting something out. No, trust me. Like, you want me to do something in 3 days from now? I'll do it. Let me go through my process. It might not be a linear process. It will be divergent. It will be go left and right, but trust that I will give you what you need in 3 days time. And that's something that will make the environment safer, as you mentioned. I think that, it might sound weird, and I'm just like, I'm going to say it, but having friends in the workplace, having people that you can talk to, right? Even if they're not doing the exact same role as you, having connections in the workplace, even if it's across department. And let's say you and I, Mike, we work at the same place, but different team. And we just chat, right? I can maybe offload some things to you. I can maybe like be genuine and just talk it through with you and say, oh my God, this is hard. I'm going through this and that. That is safety, right? That is safety. Being able to talk about it with someone who's in the same sphere, even if it's not the same team, feeling heard, feeling that you can go to someone to regulate that, because maybe we have a hard time with it, right? And it doesn't have to be your partner at home, because I don't think it's fair for your partner to absorb all that stuff and they don't even know, because they're not even in that workplace. That is trust. That is psychological safety in the workplace, to have those connections. And I've worked in some places that had amazing culture in that regard, where it's like well-being is a priority, talk with others, connect with others, build your network before you build any work. Right. That for me, that is something that works a lot. Like that's awesome. I think there's like few ways that this trust and psychological safety can be built efficiently.
Even the most independent of us are interdependent creatures. So the importance of community in any aspect of our lives is paramount to feeling safe. And most workplaces arguably denounce such a thing, especially when it comes to complaining about the workplace you happen to be in. That's why I think you should install rage rooms into every workplace across the board. Just have a room where you can just You guys can just go in there and just destroy stuff. It'd be great.
That would be amazing. Oh my God. But yeah, it's like it's just letting people to be themselves for the full experience at work, right? Like it's sometimes they'll have good days, sometimes they'll have bad days, sometimes it's going to be hard, sometimes they'll want to talk to someone. Like it's, yeah, there's like so many ways. But it's just thinking about it. It's hard because a lot of businesses are performance driven, right? They're not human driven. It's performance. I got to see it. I got to see the result today. I got to see it like in 2 days. Go, go, go. And if you see places that have like external vendors or contract or things like this, it's hard because you see people in, you see people out, right? And especially in places where, like for me, that made a big difference. After COVID, you go into a workplace and they say, okay, perfect. You have to be here like, I don't know, like 2 or 3 days a week, right? Like there's a presence that is required. Totally fine. I'm pretty aligned with a hybrid system like this, but it's challenging when it's a hot desk. You go in on a Monday, you pick a desk, and then maybe Chaya is my neighbor. I talk to Chaya. Hey, perfect. Hi, nice to meet you. This is awesome. Okay, so glad that we're, sitting right beside each other today. Maybe she works in a different department. And then I go in on a Wednesday and it's someone else because it's a hot desk. And it's hard to build safety and sense of belonging when your neighbor changes all the time, because you can't build conversation like this if I only see Chaya 3 months after, right? So I feel like having those like permanent desk or like a belonging, this is where I sit, this is my spot, this is my family, this is my picture of my daughter, this is me on a ski trip last weekend. You have all those pictures on your desk or something that people can talk about. Hey, I didn't know that about you. Like that brings safety because you connect and you have something to talk about that is beyond just your role. It's you as an individual. But with those hot desks or like the remote aspect of work in many places, it's hard to build that. It's hard to build that human connection because it's just like go in, do your work, sign out, and then next day go in, a different desk, go out. It's that's really challenging for me at least.
I think people should be given opportunity to speak, and especially it would be great if leaders could listen. Because I can see individuals talking to one another. That happens right in the cafeteria, but the frustration stays right there. And there's somewhat like the air of leadership that they're not approachable. You cannot really speak the truth or they don't want to hear it. And that leads to suffocation eventually.
I think that the open door policy or being able to say, okay, you know what, like, regardless of my role, regardless of how high I am in the organization, feel free to come talk to me. And you don't have to filter necessarily because there's like an expectation like, oh, you're a director, you're a VP. When you talk to me this way. You talk to me with those words. You talk to me in this, short sentence and like make it quick because I don't have time for you. That's so hard. And I've experienced that. It's like, okay, wait, you want to hear my opinion, but you don't because you want me to formulate that in a specific way that is so filtered that my idea won't come across. It's so challenging because the system around it is built for a purpose that is not necessarily inclusive of different types of minds, right? And that's, I think it's a big shift that we need to make happen in the workplace. And if I can do my part for it, well, might as well. But it's a big shift. It's a big boat to turn for sure.
The hierarchy needs to really go.
Definitely. And I mean, those are like hierarchical systems that aren't productive for anybody. We just happen to notice that they're not productive. It's funny to look at it as, oh, well, you're neurodivergent. Why are you asking for accommodations that nobody else gets? Like that. It's like, well, you ask for accommodations all the time. You ask for, those in charge need to be spoken to an exact specific way, even if it doesn't make any sense. And you have to go do useless work because the person in charge thinks it's a good idea when it's really not. No, you're asking for things that all the time that you're making everyone else do. So all because we're asking to do things a little bit differently because it makes it better. Why is that harmful? It comes down to mostly an ego trip thing most of the time.
Yeah. And, it's interesting because I'm just kind of thinking of something, as you say that, Mike, a lot of entrepreneurs have ADHD, right? Like a lot of ADHD will come up with ideas. It's going to become a system. It's going to become some sort of, innovative thing of some sort. But I wonder, is it because they're so creative that it brings amazing ideas to life? Or is it because that's the response of not being accepted fully in a typical workplace and doing their own thing?
I think all of that is true. And you're an out-of-box thinker. When you start thinking from all different angles, you're going to see the problem, which other people miss. And the emotional connection. It's all about emotions for us. We feel rejected, then you create a new system.
Yeah, you create something that you feel safe in.
So before you go, Stéphane, I want to hear more about the system you're building and who is it for? How are people going to benefit? Yeah.
So LIX Learning, in a nutshell, is really to offer a structured way of building and reviewing courses, because often it's a bit of a chaotic experience. Either on the build side, it's like, okay, where do I start? How do I put my stuff together? Like, how do I structure that content? That could be overwhelming. And then on the review side, it's like, sometimes it's chaotic because you receive feedback from left and right and subjective feedback and opinions, and like, okay, wait a minute, like, let me get clarity through that noise, because there's a lot of noise in the review process. So I just want to have clarity. I just want to know, like, what do I actually need to change, right? What's the reason behind? And give me a clear path. Give me a clear action path that I know and I'm not missing comments. You're like, oh my God, I'm going to miss one of those because they're coming from everywhere. So it's, in a nutshell, it's a structured second set of eyes to build and review your courses in an efficient way. To answer your question, someone who might benefit from it, I think there's a lot of people, obviously, but content creators, right, that are not necessarily used to building content in an instructional way, that they might need support, but they don't have an instructional designer in their team. They're working solo. So if they want to have like that perspective on that course, I think that LIX Learning is really beneficial for them. But I also think it's interesting for someone who works solo. So I'm thinking, like, let's say consultant, as an example, supporting a team, building courses. They don't have anyone else looking back at their course. They don't have that second set of eyes on it. They're working solo. And at one point, you can't see your own work. It's so hard to review your own work. I think it's really beneficial for someone like this. And I also think that it's really beneficial for big teams that want to have a common language for the review process. Because in a nutshell, what you would gain from it, regardless if you're a content creator, a solo person like a consultant, or a big team, you reduce your review time substantially. So things that might take weeks and be really costly are compressed into days, right? Of clear path, clarity for the professional working behind the learning experience, a common language, they know exactly what to fix, and it will bring you there in a much more accelerated way. That's really the big beneficial aspect of it. And it also brings so much more clarity to the course, because the end result will be a course that is built with clarity for all minds. So like, let's say for me, if I read a course and it's like super long sentences, you lost me there, right? But if there's a way to catch that and say, oh yeah, that needs to be broken down into 3 sentences, then that course will land better for me and for many other learners. And I'll want more. I'll want to come back. I'll want to engage more with your library, with your academy, with your portal, with your platform, whatever it is. And that's what it is. You're building better trust with your audience and your partners.
That is amazing. And that includes personalization.
One aspect that it also does, and I'm glad that you bring it up, is often a tricky part is brand standards. So brand alignment. So maybe some brands or some content creators want to make sure that their course are aligned with some sort of standards. We don't say this word, but we say this word instead. Or we want to make sure that all the, this thing shows up this way, whatever it is. Then that is something that LIX Learning also does, is the alignment with your brand standards. Especially if you're an external vendor and you work for a company and they have standards, how do you check if your work is indeed properly aligned before you send it to your client? That is something that will protect your reputation, because you don't have to do a lot of rework and say, oh, I missed the mark here. I forgot that this company, have a custom request of not saying this word or that thing. So that's a good way to check your work before you send that for those standards.
That is a beautiful, wonderful system, and something that, and how many people have really even thought in those terms up until this point. And that is something that is desperately needed, I would say. Where can anyone learn more information?
Right now, the best place to go is the LinkedIn page, LIX Learning. This is where you'll find all the information. It's really early phase, to be honest. There's a lot of new things coming out. We're going to have a website and different things in a short while. But right now, the LinkedIn page is the best place to go for LIX Learning. In practice, Mike, just to kind of give a bit more detail, what it provides is first is a diagnostic on the course. So like we'll give you kind of a 1-page report and like, okay, this is where your course stands. These are the risks in terms of clarity. one pager. And then the next phase is actually improvement plan. So it's your course annotated with some recommendations and say here and here that needs to be changed, or we recommend to change this and that for these reasons. So you actually learn through that process as well, right? That's something that the system does. And it all starts with an exploratory call with me. So like if someone is interested to partner up, to see how it works, to get a demo or whatever, go on LIX Learning on LinkedIn, book a call with me. I'll be more than happy to connect and then walk them through it and see exactly what are their needs and then curate their approach from there.
Awesome. And I really recommend people do that. If you are interested in this, I'll be sure to include all that in the show notes as well, as much information as I can put. And I really want to thank you for joining us. This has been a really interesting conversation, and I love having you on, so you'll have to come back.
Thank you, Stéphane.
Thank you so much.
This episode was brought to you by Sparkade, our ADHD game-based learning platform designed to spark focus, confidence, and joy through play. Join the waitlist today at play.sparkade.app/waitlist. That's play.sparkade.app.